It's going to be a tough battle for second.
It's going to be. And I mean, the Falcons are in kind of a weird spot too, because if we're going to move on into their kind of, I'll give you their losses and their additions coming into this season. They cut Roddy White. He's no longer with the team. They don't have Corey Bierman anymore. Chris Chester's gone. Jake Long is gone. They bring in their 3 big free agents that they bring in is Alex Mack, center from Cleveland. Good job getting out of the factory of sadness.
Yeah.
Mohamed Sanu, who the thing with Mohamed that I'm thinking about is, yeah, it's pretty good to be a quality wide receiver when A.J. Green's double coverage and Andy Dalton has to throw to you, plus when you have the offensive mastermind in Hugh Jackson or Wolverine as your offensive coordinator, which he won't have here. And then Derek Shelby, defensive tackle from Miami, were their top additions. And this Atlanta team, I mean, second year for their head coach, who I'm blanking on right now, came over from Seattle. Dan somebody. You're going to have to look that up for me, Mark, or else I will when you're talking.
You're making me blank the name, too.
They had a good year, started out 6 wins right off the bat, and then fell off the face of the earth.
Well, the thing that I liked at Dan Quinn, there we go.
Dan Quinn, that was it.
It's such a simple name to forget. Anyways.
It was only the last name that I forgot, too. I knew the first name was Dan. I knew where he came from.
You probably wanted to say Dan Campbell.
Almost. I wanted to say something with an S.
So, Dan Samble.
Dan Schwinn.
The thing is, this is a team, when you think back to Hard Knocks, not too long ago, they were on Hard Knocks. They were going to rebuild this identity as a tough team because nobody in the league thought the Falcons were tough. Yeah. That's true. And they did a pretty good job. They they definitely got better defensively. They go and they help out the secondary in the draft. They get Deion Jones as well. That's going to be great in the linebacking unit there. They're getting a lot of help. They should be better. Julio Jones is going to be Julio Jones. And Sanu is going to benefit just like he did when he had A.J. Green on the opposite side. He's going to go ahead and get the benefit of Julio Jones double covered. I'm getting some help. I'm wide open because nobody's covering me. Everybody's on him. So he's going to do that, and he's still got a great quarterback. I would say Andy Dalton, Matty Ice, I would put them at the same spot. Maybe Matt Ryan maybe a little bit better than Andy Dalton. But it's a complete lateral shift for Sanu, so I'm not worried about that in his case. The things that I kind of think with the Atlanta Falcons is
Devonta Freeman's got to stay healthy.
It's certainly going to help
because he had a huge injury last year that maybe he was having a great start. To the season.
Yeah, he was the reason why
they were 6-0.
Everyone was like, Atlanta Falcons are back. They're here. They're not going to, they're not going to be this pushover team that they were just last year. And then he goes and he's gone. I was just kind of, I remember.
And it was 5-0. I'm sorry, 5-0, not 6-0.
I remember in fantasy football, I was one of those people who was super excited to just randomly have drafted him. Like, yeah, he'll be okay. He'll be good enough.
And then you traded him to Slowinski, who's Lions guy on this podcast.
Yeah, I traded him to the Lions guy.
Yeah.
I did do that.
But, yeah, this was a team that I said 6-0. I think I was thinking 6 because it was actually 6-1. And then after that, they go on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game losing streak. So just like that, you're 6-7.
Yeah. The thing that I remember with the Atlanta Falcons, and one reason why I think, with Sanu being there, this is one of the things they're trying to help. And Roddy White's out the door.
Roddy White was just getting old.
Oh, for sure.
Do I love Roddy White? Yes. Do I love seeing? We actually did a podcast. Oh shoot, was this
on how much you love Roddy White?
No, I think this was. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. I can't remember if it was on the MVP account or when we used to be the onside kick account. But we did a podcast with, I think Dave was on that podcast too.
Talking about the best duo?
Talking about the best wide receiver
that
duos
was on the
NFL.
onside kick.
That's okay, yeah.
So the thing about Julio Jones, obviously, or not necessarily Julio Jones, but the Atlanta Falcons was the thing I remember about these guys, one of the best passing attacks, but they didn't score touchdowns that well. They just couldn't do it for whatever reason. They were not very good at scoring points in a game. They can pass the ball like crazy. They did a great job running early on in the season, but they couldn't actually get the job done. It's like the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years back. If you can't throw a touchdown to a wide receiver, you're not going to win very many games. And when you do win games, you're feeling pretty lucky. That was the thing about the Atlanta Falcons. They were not able to really score those points that they needed. Is Sanu going to be the answer to that? I really don't know. I wouldn't say for sure that he is. Don't forget that they did draft a tight end as well, so they're going for a big body, hopefully pass the ball to him in the red zone. But also having Freeman there, having him healthy, that's only going to help let the team score touchdowns when they're in that short yardage red zone situation. If they can fix that problem, I think they're definitely going to be a lot better than they were last year, especially because the defense is improving, and Dan Quinn comes with that mentality of, we're going to be a tough team. We're going to make people remember that we're tough.
And just because I did some research, you were actually wrong, by the way.
Oh.
It is on the Most Valuable Podcast account called Who Has the Best Wide Receiver Tandem in the NFL. Before we get back
one of the best ones on there was Marshall and Jeffrey. Just saying.
Before we get back to the Falcons really quick, my little aside, can you guess the date of that podcast?
Well, it would have been 2014.
Yep, that's the year. The date is coming up. I'm going to say it's
July.
July what? It's coming up this week.
July 1st.
July 1st, 2014.
Yeah.
So we're almost getting to the 2-year anniversary of that
particular
podcast.
But,
yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn came in last year, and it was all toughness. Beat the Eagles. Then they go on and beat the Giants and the Cowboys at home. That was still when they had Romo, I believe. Then they beat the Houston Texans, and then in overtime against Washington. And then from there, it's like the injury to Freeman. I think the injury to Freeman
kind of deflated them.
Well, it played a part, but this team just couldn't get back together. I mean, they even lost to the Indianapolis Colts, and I remember that game, and that game was kind of a fluky game, only in the sense that I think the Falcons won it. The Colts didn't win that game, to where Matt Hasselbeck, okay, he kind of played a good game, but let's be honest, the Falcons could have easily won that game. They could have easily won that game over the Colts.
One thing I wanna ask you, Ricky, because it's the kind of topic of discussion that's happening a lot right now. Talking about Julio Jones, do you think he can get 2,000 yards? He wasn't that far off. He had 1871 last year.
If Freeman stays healthy the whole year, yes. Yeah. Because the one thing that with Atlanta, I feel like the run game has to support the pass game. And
of course.
It's one of those things where if you don't have Devonta Freeman out there healthy for the Falcons, we're just going to, we don't have to crowd the box. Kind of like with my Vikings. When you play my Vikings, you're crowding the box because you want to limit APs and numbers. Well, if Devonta Freeman's not there, I'm not going to crowd the box, and I'm just going to stay back and fucking double team Julio Jones each time, and force you to have Mohamed Sanu beat me, I should say. So, if the goal for this offense, Devonta Freeman's health. That's what it is.
Makes sense.
That's what's going to drive this team. And the Falcons this year, like I said with the Saints, it's going to be between them two. Panthers are probably going to finish first. Saints and Falcons are going to battle it out for 2-3. Bucks will be in last.
I think it's a battle for 2 and 3, but I really think the Atlanta Falcons are going to steal it away from the Saints. I just think that they're going to be the all-around team. Yes, the Saints are a better offense than the Falcons. But with that being said, Falcons are going to get better on offense. They're going to get better on defense. It's just that they're not ready to take that next step up. I think the Falcons can be one of those teams that are 8-9 wins competing for the wild card, but they're like that fringe team that they're like, well, they can get in the wild card if this team loses and that team loses and they win. That type of situation where they're not going to just be able to play for their wild card spot. The wild card's going to be very difficult in the NFC this year.
Well, and let's move on to the last team. The last one that we have yet to talk about, your team,
Claw.
Hashtag claw up the Carolina Panthers. And really the thing for the Panthers that the question is for me is, do they get back to the Super Bowl? Do they have the schnuff to get back to the Super Bowl in 2016? And like I've done for every team thus far, don't worry, I'm not changing stuff up, is what they lost, what they gained. Their big losses, of course, have to be Josh Norman was franchised, didn't sign it. He's now in Washington. Kyle Love's no longer on the team. We've got Charles Tillman's no longer on the team. Chris Scott is no longer on the team. And what they bring in is basically their biggest free agency signings are Brandon Boykin, quarterback from the Steelers, and then Gino Gradkowski from the Falcons. So this is a team that might have lost a lot without gaining a lot.
Mm-hmm. The thing I kind of confuses me a little bit, but when you really look at what happened last year and injuries and everything like that, you kind of get it. The only thing, they didn't have a ton of draft picks. I think it's what, they had 5?
Yeah. They're getting, I forgot to mention, they're getting Calvin Benjamin back.
Exactly. That's the big part, because you look at this team and you say they were not that good passing the ball. They were great running the ball. They could run like nobody else, but they couldn't really compete in the passing game.
And how many drop passes did they have in the Super Bowl?
It's insane. The one-dimensional nature of that is what really hurt the Panthers in the Super Bowl. People want to blame Cam Newton all they want, but that wide receiver group was depleted. They dropped the ball like crazy. All they could do was run, stuff the box, you win. You're frustrated, Cam Newton, and you got the win. It's easy. So you look at this and you say, all right, Vernon Butler, defensive tackle. They get not 1, not 2, but 3 corners in the draft. It's like,
one
why?
of them has to step up. Because now we have a huge hole that Josh Norman is now leaving.
But you're sitting there thinking, why are they going all defense? It doesn't make sense. But you really think about it, getting Calvin Benjamin is going to be huge. Getting him back is huge. Funches, if he can step up, be a true, real number 2, that's going to be such a benefit, especially with a guy, none other than Greg Olsen, who was the star of this offense last year, besides Cam Newton, of course. And then with Ted Ginn Jr. still on the team, right? Ted Ginn? All right, so he's got to just, be that third option there, because people keep talking up Ted Ginn Jr. like he's going to be, a magical, key to success. He's suddenly going to be a number 1 wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. We all need to calm down on the guy. But they have all these weapons for Cam Newton. Once you get him healthy, once everybody's there, and you have somebody who's somebody to throw the ball to besides Greg Olsen, the offense should be a lot better. I'm not super worried about Josh Norman, because Josh Norman was very good in the zone coverage. When he had to play, man-to-man, when he was really doing the bumping, aggressive corner situation, he either got frustrated, as we saw with OBJ, but he also got burned a fair amount. And, which leads you to think that you could get somebody in there to do what he did, not at the same level, but close enough, because he was still getting burnt. He wasn't immune to it.
And I'm looking at their schedule right now, and yes, the loss of Josh Norman is huge, and not one player can step in and fill that hole. However, I look at their schedule, and I don't see too many, besides the division. If they can win most of their divisional games, I don't see too many teams that can expose that weakness. Denver, they got Mark Sanchez and Trevor Seaman. They're not gonna even contest that game. San Francisco, we don't know what's gonna go on with them. They're a question mark. Minnesota,
Marquise,
they're a tough one. They're a tough one because of Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. Then you got the division of Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston, and Drew Brees after that. Then after a bye week, you got to play Carson Palmer. Okay, that's 2. Los Angeles.
But as Carson Palmer,
he's still a viable. I think he can win that game for the Cardinals. It's a tough opponent for that defense.
They destroyed him, though. Let's remember that. They destroyed him.
But now they don't have Josh Norman. That's a key thing.
Josh Norman himself didn't make 5 6 turnovers. 6 turnovers.
I'm gonna say it's a tough game. Goff, not a chance. Panthers win. Alex Smith, okay, that'll be a tough opponent.
I feel good about the Chiefs this year.
Then you got another division. Okay, you've got Derek Carr, Russell Wilson. I'll throw him in there. Phillip Rivers, I don't know where to put him. Kirk Cousins, not a chance I'm adding them to this 4, and then 2 more divisional games. So 4 opponents that I'm saying can expose that Josh Norman hole.
I'd maybe put Derek Carr in there as well.
Okay, fine, 5. But we're not putting Kirk Cousins in there. That's for sure.
No. It's just I don't think the loss of Josh Norman is actually going to be as bad as people expect. I think they're going to find serviceable replacements. I mean, they drafted 3 options.
Good thing they're not playing the Giants because OBJ would be upset that
but
he's
he gets to play. Norman gets to play him
twice.
Still. Yeah. I don't understand the logic behind that one. Here's the thing about that is we're always going to talk about that game. We're always going to talk about that feud. But really, Josh Norman's great. I'm not trying to take things away from him, but OBJ is going to win that battle. He's going to keep winning it. Because you look at that the one that really started it all, which is OBJ burning right past him. Fortunately, dropping the ball, but burns right past him, and that's what started the feud. That's what got under his skin.
Wasn't there also something about a baseball bat? Like, I got a baseball bat on the sideline. I'll smash your kneecaps in or something like that.
They were talking shit all day. They
got after it, too, man. That game got out of hand.
It's going to be fun. Thanks, Josh Norman, for more entertainment by going to his division for some reason. Because he wants to play on the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, because they're going to be a good team.
Why does anyone want to play on the Washington Redskins? I still don't get it. People were mad at us because we didn't get it in the original video we talked about it, but I still just don't get it. Why would you want to go play for the Redskins?
The Josh Norman video we did.
People were like, you guys are too hard on the Redskins. No, we're not.
The Redskins are just bad.
They're not bad. They're just not good. I mean, you go from the best team who just went to the Super Bowl, who's got a very real chance of going back, to a team that's going to have to, they won their division last year, but they're going to have to compete not only for the division, but possibly a wild card spot. I just don't get it. Don't get it.
Here's the big news, though, getting back to the Panthers, and this is big key football stuff. You ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
Cam Newton's not going to dab this season.
No.
He's retiring the dab. Apparently, he's coming up with a new move, though.
Which is good.
Here's a serious question for you. How much does retiring the dab help or hurt the Panthers this season? I think it's a question I have to ask you, Mark. It's a question that needs to be answered. Everyone at home wants to know it.
So, the thing about the dab here is I actually 100% honestly feel that this almost actually is going to be a benefit to the Panthers. And
no more talk about, man, he should just score the touchdown and not celebrate.
People are going to, because Cam Newton's going to be the topic of conversation because people are going to talk about how mature he is versus how immature he is.
Boy, you should just score the touchdown and then sit your butt down.
Yeah, and people are going to sit there, the first loss he has, the first bad game he has, even if it is a win, well, how is he going to react? How is he going to talk in the post-game conference?
That Super Bowl loss.
Yeah, exactly. People are going to make a big deal, a way bigger deal than it needs to be made about this. So retiring the dab and just kind of laying a little low
apparently,
might be beneficial
he's coming
for
up
him.
with something new, though.
We'll see. But, I sit there and I just find it funny with those complaints. And obviously you were making fun of it. But, Aaron Rodgers goes out there and, WWE champion belt. And everyone loves that. Everyone loves Gronk Spike. People were loving the dab until Cam Newton started doing not good in the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden everyone's pissed off about it.
I think there were a few people upset with the dab even when
there were some.
He started to do it.
And then all of a sudden everybody jumped on it, and everyone's like, fuck Cam Newton. Guy's a fucking Nazi. Like, all of a sudden everybody hated him.
A Nazi,
all of a sudden he was the worst fucking player in the NFL.
Yeah, I get the point that you're doing, but yeah, for the Panthers, this is going to be a key season of how do you come back from that Super Bowl loss? And I think they come back fine.
I think they come back really strong. Team. If they have everybody healthy on the offense, because that's what really the downfall for the team was, I think what would be really special for this team, they keep a good defense, a great defense really, and Cam Newton comes out there and just lights people up. Just lights them up. goes ahead, puts up another MVP-like performance, and just shows everybody, hey, you guys were down on me last year. I'm even better than I was this year than I was last year.
Around. No one's ever gonna keep me down. I'm the best.